You ain't nowhere to be found when Mr. Pat Robertson say that your black people, although in another country, they still your black people. You will break your neck to send money over there to Africa, quote unquote, the poor country, quote unquote, the richest, most naturally wealthy country and continent in the world is Africa. The history of all things, the history of all people, the history of all knowledge, but it's poor. You will break your neck to send money over there. Okay, United States sending people to FEMA to Haiti and helping them out and all of this and that. But you allow somebody, a Christian, Pat Robertson, a Christian leader for his people, to say something like your people deserve to die because they made a pact with the devil. I don't even want to know how much bullshit that is right there. But you know what? You're going to let him say something like that and not respond. That makes me think Mr. Sharpton and Mr. Jackson and whomever else are in the position. I say Mr. Freddie Price, and I don't even know if Barack Obama by this time has said anything about it. But all of y'all, quote unquote Christians too, must agree with him because you ain't say anything against him. And people, this is what I want to tell you. And this is what I mean by we don't have any leadership. In the early 90s, another great scholar, child psychologist, author, publisher, educator, Amos Wilson, who has been, he's gone now. You've never heard of him. One of the greatest minds to ever step foot on this American soil. But you never heard of him. He said at his time in the early 90s when he said this, that if Bush and Gorbachev decided to eradicate all of the people of color from this earth, they could do it with support because we don't have one country that will stand up and fight for us and against them from eradicating all black people. And you know what? This was the early 90s, and now it's 2010, and he is exactly right. If anybody decided that they say we are no longer needed from this world and on this earth, guess what? We don't have a single country. Name a country, and I wish you would say America. We don't have a single country that will stand up and fight for us and against something like that. And that's a shame. It really is. And I hate to say it like this, because this is not Decoding the Ghost Spells, Series 200. This is not Decoding the Ghost Spells. But I hate to say it like this, but you really need to get out of this little fantasy idea that there is a God that's going to come and save you from this. You know why? Because if he was going to save you from anything, why did he not save you from having your people piled up on top of each other on the bottom of a boat in water, some drowning, thrown over, some dying, others defecating on top of the live ones, others vomiting on top of the live ones, eating one another, praying for somebody or wanting somebody, not necessarily praying, but wanting for something to save them. Why did this great, whatever God you believe in, didn't save them then? And right now, our situation may be a little more modern, but he ain't saved you yet. Okay, slavery, I told you before, learn about it, but don't weigh on it. See, a lot of you use that as an excuse. Yes, slavery did. It was a horrible situation. And I don't care what anybody say. Don't come to me about a Holocaust. Because if I were Hitler and I knew what he knew about the different people trying to run his country, Jews, for instance, and trying to infiltrate his country and his government and his money system, and trying to change the ideas that he was teaching or he was giving out in his place, Deutschland. If I were him, I would have done the same thing. And you can hate me for saying that, but you know what? He stood up for his people. Where is your leader at? Standing up for you. You gonna hate what I say, but you don't have a leader to stand up for you. So really think twice before you throw that rock from that glass house, please. Now, to slavery, the one main thing you need to understand is not only were you cut from your culture, you were cut from your family, you were cut from your tradition, your land physically. Not only was all of that there, you were cut from your teachings and your education system at the time. You were cut from all of that. But the worst thing that was ever done, your mind was cut to the point, excuse me, your mind was cut to the point where a European white person could look at you in the face and say you were less than a human, that you were no better than an animal or a beast. And you know what? You said, yes, sir. That was the worst thing to ever happen to you. The worst thing to ever happen to you, because you were dehumanized and you accepted it and you believed it yourself and you actually taught your children to be dehumanized. That's the worst thing to ever happen. The thing is, and I need you to understand this, is that our mindset is so screwed up, and it has been screwed up for so long, that white people are not even to blame for it anymore. They even realize, you know what? They are so screwed up, we gonna let them keep screwing their own self up. And we gonna sit back and watch and continue to reap the benefits of these screw-ups. Because, like I said, we have no leaders. We have no system. We have no type of form of education to get us up out of this mess. And no college is not the answer. I'm sorry. Because you take notice, everything that you learn in K through 12, which is 13 years of school, didn't matter when you got to college for the most part. The only classes that really mattered when you got to college, maybe the mathematics, maybe the English, because that may be your, natural language or your language that you're speaking now. I ain't gonna say natural, but your language now is English. So the English probably stuck. But pretty much everything else you learned in high school and grade school and middle school and kindergarten and preschool, you forgot. And not necessarily did you forget, but you didn't need once you got to college. So guess what? That education was for nothing. And if you don't go to college and you happen to not go to college or school after school,